Alright, hey, what's up YouTube? Welcome to Play It Painted Live. Hope you guys are having a good Monday evening. And here we go with another one of these. And today we are going to again keep a short stream like we typically do. But I did want to hop on stream real quick and tell a little story, get into a little bit of a rant. And it is actually, we'll say, somewhat relevant to some of the stuff we're going to be painting tonight. Like I said, like these description says, we are finishing some various MCP miniatures that it's. I think we also streamed some of this last time, but I'm gonna stream. Actually, I think we streamed it on Twitch. Uh, Jake and I watched a movie very briefly on Twitch, and then the Twitch watch party just bugged out, which is a shame. But anyways, let me show you what we're working on tonight. All right, so we're working on some MCP and a lot of big models. A lot of big models. One of the reasons why I wasn't really ever intending to stream any of this particular type of painting, and it's one of the reasons why I am painting large models is slightly annoying to me, not gonna lie, because I can't stream it. Let me see if I can actually, see if I can get a little bit, maybe a little bit of perspective here on these miniatures. So this is the Hulkbuster Iron Man, obviously from MCP, and you can see he's mostly done. And he's had to be repainted a couple of times, and you can still see that there's some issues with the orange red, the cherry red metallic. There's some areas where it's still a little bit dirty, and there's not a whole lot I can do about that at this time, but I'm going to keep kind of working my way through this model. One thing I'm working on right now is retouching the gold on this model. So let me explain what happened, because painting Iron Man is always the most difficult thing. For me, it's every time I have to paint Iron Man, I basically lose my mind, because me and Iron Man do not get along when it comes to painting. Don't get me wrong, I like the Iron Man character. I like the RDJ portrayal of Iron Man, at least with regards to the first couple of movies. But on the painting table, Mr. Iron Man and I have not gotten along. And you can see why right there. Okay? So typically when I'm painting Iron Man, I have a very nice base coat color that I can use for Iron Man. And it works fantastic. And I get in my opinion, a very good base coat down. The problem is, once that goes down, then I need to do all of this bordering, and the studio art has a lot of shading, like way more shading than you actually your eye may pick up. It's got a lot of highlighting and shading that is just so crazy because of all the different possibilities of light to bounce off this particular model. So what I end up doing is I think that's a cat outside my door. So what I end up doing is I end up trying to apply a liner. Okay, and you guys know that that I do have a go-to liner. It is Ammo by MIG, or Ammo MIG washes. They typically work extremely well. But I did something really stupid in this case. Okay, I was trying out something that I thought was actually going to work. What was the thing that I was going to try out? If I can find a bottle of it. Maybe I threw it out in pure disgust. I may have. I may have already done that, but let me double check. Yeah, it would be there, or it might be Maybe I can't find it. Hold on. Hold on. I still trust. Don't worry. No one's even watching yet, so we're probably okay for a minute. Okay. This is not the correct one. This one, right here. Okay. So, I was trying out the Duncan Rhodes paints. Okay, the two thin coats, because why not? I always do that when there's a new line of paint brought into the shop. I want to try it out. You know, everybody loves Duncan Rhodes, except for me because I don't follow the GW world, and I just see pictures of this goofy dude who looks like he can really, really throw down with the paints. So I trust this dude with his ability to throw down with the paints, and he broke off from GW. Good for him, and he formed his own paint line. So I figure, okay, well, a couple things. He left GW, so he automatically went to dropper bottles. That's good. He went with these tips that look like they might be a little bit easier to clean than, say, the Vallejo or even the AK dropper bottles. Also good. Um, he only has 15 mils of paint per bottle. That's not good. And he charges a little bit more than AK, right? So this AK bottle, I believe, is like 17 mils or something like that. 17 mils, yeah. So pound for pound, AK is cheaper, and I absolutely love AK. I've left my Vallejo all behind. I've converted over to AK because they have a lot of the same strengths as Vallejo, but they have fixed a lot of the weaknesses that are in the Vallejo palette. And they have very, very, very good specialty paints. So AK is where it's at for me. But on this particular day, I had Iron Man, Hulkbuster, and his little smaller buddy here, all blocked out. Right, I had the gold, and I had a nice like cherry red metallic on them, and I decided to try out this Duncan Rhodes two thin coats. And the idea here was I was just going to do some more like outlining, right? I wanted it to hit some shadow, right? I wanted to have some definition of shadow, like right there, you can see right here, right? And I thought that this would be okay. I thought this would not do what Nuln Oil does, but it turns out this is an exact copy of Nuln Oil. Okay, so you guys know that you guys, a lot of painters love Nuln Oil. They love Nuln Oil. They know what it can do, and in general, I do know what it can do. But I was never happy with Nuln Oil. I felt like there were definitely better alternatives there for washing your models with a black, with especially with the intent of really acting as kind of a strong border liner. So that was my expectation. And you guys, maybe a little history lesson in the show. What I used to do is I would go in. I used to make my own very, very light wash slash liner using one of my favorite products for a long time, P3 Armor Wash, which is a little harder to come by these days. You don't see P3 carried in many stores anymore, and you don't really see the inks carried very much anymore. And let me tell you, P3 inks were phenomenally good and heavily underrated. The entire painting world overlooked how good some of these washes were. Their flesh wash was excellent. Their armor wash, one of my favorites. Piggly Purple, excellent. I still hoard that stuff. Blazing Orange ink, phenomenal. Still hoard all that stuff. Okay? But armor wash, what I used to use when I was doing lining and slight shading is I would take armor wash and I would thin it with typically something like airbrush thinner or even acrylic thinner, right? I would use that, and that was a good liner. And that did me well for quite a few years. until we hit the Holy Grail, friends. So the Holy Grail, and I've shared this on the show a few times, and I share it privately with people, is this bad boy right here. Ammo by MiG, navy gray shader. It's beautiful. Appreciate it. It's wonderful. It's the precious. Okay? This stuff is where it's at. This is what real pay dirt looks like, except no substitutes. All right? This stuff, if you really want an outline effect and a bare bone shade that's really only going to show up over white, but in most of the time, like things like red, things like bone, things like blue, any of your like infinity armor detail, like where it's very intricate detail, that gray wash is going to kick the ever-living trash out of everything in the water-based world. I'm not talking about oil liners, because oil liners, making an oil wash is amazing. We all know that. But oils are kind of an annoyance to work with, so I don't really care for working with oils. Anyways, so I tried out the 2 thin coats, and it did exactly what Nuln Oil does. And some people like it, and I find it atrocious. So I have been very slowly and meticulously building this back up. Believe me, this thing looked like it had taken a mud bath prior to the coats of paint I have been applying ever since. It's actually in its most decent state right now. Okay, so that's where we're at with that model. But I wanted to rant now. And the rant wasn't about Nuln Oil, and it wasn't about Duncan Rhodes. It was about people who ask for your advice and then choose to ignore 100% of it. Okay? All right. So, anyways, I will tell this on the stream because I don't care. And the guy who I'm referring to does not watch this stream. He does not follow me. So that's good. But guy came up to me and he had a very expensive GW model. And the GW model was like an orc guy on a squig type thing. He was like an orc war boss riding a giant squig. Very cool model. Blah blah blah. It's a GW model. Whatever. And he had tried to paint it himself, and it was, let's say, not good. And he was trying to fix one thing while I was working with him. He wanted to fix the sword, just the blade of that model, and he wanted to paint it gold for some reason. And I'm going to paint some gold while we're doing this. He wanted to paint it gold, and so I told him, okay, well, your paint looks like it really had a hard time. You may want to spot prime, or get a good solid undercoat going with your with your model. And so he's starting to paint undercoat with brush on white primer. Again, not the most optimal thing, but hey, sometimes we do what we got to do, right? So I get it. So he's going to use brush on white primer. Then, oh man, I gotta follow my own advice here. So he asks about the sword, and I didn't know what color he wanted to paint the sword because it's an orc sword. It's a very jagged sword. I thought maybe he was going to go a different route and paint the sword like a bone color or something like that. So priming white, and to try to get a bright color on that sword was not a bad idea. But what he really wanted to do was he wanted to paint the blade of the sword gold. Okay? Now, jokes aside about gold swords, blah blah blah. Not really here. That's not really the point, guys. That's fine if he wants to do gold sword. But as everyone working with metallics knows, with true metallics is one of the best things you can do if you're undercoating with the intent of painting a metallic over is you should prime a dark color. So that's a little counterintuitive to what people say about trying to get bright colors. But if you're working with a metallic, a true metal, go ahead and and I told them, okay, well, you're going to want to undercoat dark, right? Either like you could undercoat uh, a whole red, you could undercoat whole red or a brown or even black. You could even do black. That would it'll still be a better start than priming white underneath. Um, so he hears that and then proceeds to not really do it. So he didn't really do it. He just kind of, yeah, whatever. And the whole time I'm recommending some products like, okay, you can go this route. This would work well, blah blah blah. So now he gets to the point where he wants to put some gold down on the blade of the sword. Okay, again, say what you will, but that was his goal. He wants to put gold down on the sword. So he breaks out his pot of GW whatever shitty Space Marine gold or whatever it's called. I don't know. What is it called? Uh, AOS gold or something, right? Uh, and he shakes the bottle up and just kind of plops it down and starts painting. Okay? And I'm thinking, okay, well, I'm not really paying attention. I'm like painting my own model at the time. So he starts painting, and I look up, and his model, the gold part, has like it's instead of it being gold and metallic, it's like orange. It's like bright orange and a little translucent, and it looks extremely glossy, like super, super wet, right? And I look at him and I say, I don't think your paint is I don't think your paint is mixed thoroughly. I don't think you've shaken it thoroughly. He goes, well, I have a shaker bottle in there, and I did shake it for some time, and we're going. I'm like that. That's fine. You can you can argue with me verbally, but the visual cue is saying that you did not mix this paint properly. You've got a lot of resin that's just sitting on the surface of your model, and it looks very wet, and it's going to take a long time for that to dry. Right? He's like, oh, okay. So he lets it dry, like for a very long time. And I'm continuing to paint my model, blah, blah, blah. He's asking me a bunch of other questions and every time I tell him an answer or, refer him to something, he's like, no, I don't want to do that because that's, it's not a GW paint. It's gotta be a GW paint. It's gotta be GW. Everything GW. GW, right? Okay, fine. So by the time the thing dries, like in between, I'm telling him, that is the metallics have never been a strong point with GW paints, and everybody knows this. They've never had very good metallics, so even the most diehard GW painters, they will go to things like All Clad or Extreme Metals or something like that. Vallejo Model Air metallics were super duper popular back in the day because those are excellent brush on metallics and they still are. But nobody puts their blind faith in GW metallics. Even hardcore GW fans do not do that. But this guy refuses to listen to me. And also, I even offer to give him a bottle of AK or Vallejo metallics, okay? Right? Because Vallejo model metallics are not the greatest thing, but they don't settle out as hard as GW metallics do. Okay? AK metallics have been excellent for me. Absolutely love them. They've been rocking my world, essentially. They have been killing it. Um, so I'm referring all this stuff to him while he's just still like asking me for things, and then I'm telling him like, yeah, he's like, oh, I need to use the same color and the same paint line, and I'm like, that it's not about that. You need working paint. If your paint doesn't work, it doesn't matter if it's made by your Lord and Savior, Games Workshop. Okay, it's still not gonna work. If your paint is settled out, it's not gonna work. People walking by told him the same thing. So I'm not taking it personally, not that personally, but people walking by that see what's going on are also telling him, hey dude, your paint settled out. You should probably look at applying different paint. Maybe buy yourself a fresh bottle. Oh, but I'm worried because I want the model to go back to the original color. Uh, Dude, you never got the original color down. So I'm not sure what you're worried about. It, this is not like you do not have anything viable to be worried about right now. So why are you so bent out of shape to keep some weird GW pact going with your model? Okay? Right? And we're talking about restoring a jacked up model. So he just, again, just willfully ignores what I've been saying and just goes right back to, complaining about such and such not working. He was clearly stressed about the wrong things with his project. He was worried that his parchment paper for his wet palette was too crinkly. Like, guy, once you get moisture down, it's going to work just fine. That's how these things work. Okay? Don't sweat important things. Like, look for, if you're painting detail on a brush, make sure you pick a brush that has a decent tip to it. Didn't listen to me there either. Oh, really? Yeah. Doesn't matter. You can buy a GW, because he's like, the GW detail brush was the detail. It's for the detail. And I'm like, dude, no, it doesn't matter. And you don't need to buy a 000 brush to have a good detail brush. All you need is in fact, you shouldn't even buy that. You should buy like a size 1 or size 2 brush, whatever the biggest brush that you're comfortable with that can actually form a decent tip. You should do that. Okay? No, I just think that anyway. Yeah. So it was like hours with this guy that he asked 100 questions and listened to 0.0% of what I had to say. Okay. So, and he continued to intentionally use product that was not working. Oops, I think that's supposed to be gold. See, I can wait for that to dry. I didn't paint the other side. Right? And look at that. My AK gold will just cover. It's just great. Okay? That's what gold should look like, buddy. So, anyways, that's my rant for tonight. Is people that ask for advice and then don't follow any of it. Like, it was deeply frustrating. Deeply. So, anyways, I do like painting with people. I really do love it. It's one of my favorite things. Paint Day is one of my favorite events to host. Um, and overall, it was still a very good day. And I also got to host, for the first time ever at our shop, the very first Moonstone organized play. We had a Moonstone tournament, and that was absolutely brilliant. I had so much fun, and got a lot of good feedback from the participants. And guess what? There was nobody there just set in their ways, asking for things, and then flat out denying them. Once he gets a response. So it was all good stuff. All right. So with that, I am gonna continue to let's just continue to build up some cleaner detail. I don't need the model to be exactly 100% squeaky clean, but that this is what restoration entails. This is cleaning up, from a mistake. I definitely made a mistake trying out that Duncan wash here. The Duncan two-coat products are probably excellent products if you expect GW type performance from your paints. And frankly, I expect better. Right? So I am currently an AK fanboy, and that's kind of where all my cards rest these days because they perform for me and they do what I want them to do and they perform within the expectations that I have, and they're doing great. So, all right. Okay. So, pretty good there. I'm going to just continue to clean up a little. But the more I clean up, as you can see, the cleaner the model looks. And we'll get it back to a point where, I'm not absolutely horrified by paint job. But this happens every time I paint Iron Man. I start off down the right path, then I end up doing something stupid, and then I have to go back and repair. Which is, I was actually kind of fortunate because usually I turn these around in a week, and the extra time off allowed me to actually take a break from finishing these off so that I could paint some Moonstone for myself and some Carnivale and really start to look at some of the other projects that I have lined up for me that are very, very fun. So, all right. Looking pretty good there, Mr. Stark. You're not annoying, you're not quite as annoying as you were a few minutes ago before I started doing this sort of cosmetic touch-up here on Mr. Stark. So he's looking better, slowly but surely, right? And this red I'm using is somewhat flat, but we are going to rectify that towards the end of the process here, okay? All right. So there we go. Okay. So there we go with Iron Man. The other thing I have is I do have Immortal Hulk, who actually, I'm going to pop him off this thing because otherwise you won't be able to see anything. I'm going to pop him off this. Again, everybody's been submitting very big models for me to paint. So this is just big boy MCP stuff. So here's Hulk. He's looking pretty good. This is really just the color block out. And now I want to kind of smoothen out the skin and get some detail around the pants. So I guess ads are running for some viewers. I don't know why I did that. Like, there's no one's gonna watch this, so I shouldn't stick ads on it. But anyway, let's see here. Yeah, I'm gonna need some, I need like a good deep violet or something like that. Let's see what we got. Let's see what we got for violet. Do I not have? I have a deep purple, which I guess is okay. It's not quite a violet. I was just apologizing to you folks if you did end up with ads to the like 3 people that might watch this on replay. All right, so we are going to start, now that the color is blocked in, I'm going to start painting in some of the details on the pants, for example, right? So we're going to use this deep purple as a highlight. Over this is like Hive Dweller purple speed paint that was actually used to color block the pants. All right, so I'm just going to start touching up some of the details here, right? We're gonna put some highlights down. So there's some of the details are going to be brighter than other areas of detail, right? So like the hard edges, creases, that kind of thing, you're going to see this violet highlight on, okay? And it's going to kind of soften out as we highlight other parts of the model, okay? But this is always, like, for me, this is when you get to, when everything's color blocked and ready to go, this is where you can have a little bit more fun, I think, with the painting processes. Playing the highlights and blending and that kind of stuff. That's the fun, for me, that's the fun part of the painting, right? Color blocking is just the okay part, but this is the part I really like to engage in. So we're gonna work on this. How's it going, buddy? Come on in. It's okay. What do you want, buddy?
I just wanted to say goodnight.
Good night, son.
Night, Dad.
All right, have a good one. Love you. I know he gets so worried about me streaming. Remember, Octavius used to hop on stream and talk about how annoying he found Disney and spread other important truths like that. But Octavius, I'm super, super proud of. He played in the Moonstone event this weekend, and he's really been enjoying Moonstone. I am planning on putting together like a video about why Moonstone is such an incredible game and why I think if you are a gamer who does take advice from other gamers or hobbyists, you should give Moonstone a try. It is, I would say, it is the best game the best new game I've played in some time, right? And that's not to say I don't enjoy the other games that I've played most recently, like Bushido, um, like some of the other, I don't know, Shatterpoint's okay. Uh, it's not to take away from those games, but I really feel like Moonstone has some really unique things about it. Is, in my opinion, a very special game, and it's worth your time. Let me see if this is the correct green. We're trying. Oh yeah, I think that's gonna work. But I'm going to have to thin. So for skin, it's not like do sharp highlights. Um, we actually want the skin to be fairly smooth, and we want to be able to do um, several thin layers of skin. So I'm not going to thin with water. I'm going to thin with this acrylic thinner because the acrylic thinner is going to help things flow out. It's going to allow us to get a very um, thin, thin flowing coats down of this green. Okay, and I'm going to test. All right, so I'm going to test somewhere where not a lot of people are going to be staring, and I'm talking about this quadrant of the calf back here. Right, so yeah, it's kind of a deeper green, but it's kind of nice. All right, it is a deeper green than what we have here, but that's okay. This is what this is going to do is this is going to help even out the appearance of the skin, and I can start blending a little more yellow into this to to give you a better overall effect of lighting and shading on the skin. Right, so you see there I'm still kind of leaving shadow where the speed paint wanted to leave shadow. Right, so this is a pretty rough overbrush, about 90% of the total surface area we're going to go over, but it's going to be thin enough to where you can still see the highs and lows from both the priming and the color blocking steps. Okay, what it is going to do too is, because this is, again, it's an AK line, it's going to flatten down the overall sheen of the model. That's not necessarily a good thing. All right, so it's going to flatten it down just like we saw Iron Man. You saw his sheen dull down. But don't worry, we have a plan. We're going to be able to address that and fix that. Okay, so I'm going to go again pretty light here. But my goal right now with this first coat is really to try to get us back to an even coat of paint. Okay, so I'm going pretty thin and just trying not to let the paint appear globby, like big thick globs. That would be death for this type of work. That would be very bad, right? And I don't even need to mess with the details of the face really. And what the other thing this is going to do is this is going to help me find and repair like parts of the Mini. Hey, what's up, kiddo? Okay. That the speed paint may have pulled away from when it dried, right? That does happen with speed paints. Is you may have like fully coated an area, but the speed paint can sometimes pull away, can pull apart, and leave little like holidays. All right. I am liking this green a lot more than the orc paint, the orc skin speed paint, but we are going to continue to mix like down to colors that look like that, right? So I know it's not the most entertaining thing to just watch me paint an entire model one color, but hey, this is the process. This is what we do, right? I actually quite enjoy this type of painting. Right? I quite enjoy it. Okay, so we're going to continue on. And pretty much by the time I'm done with one coat, we'll be ready to start the next coat. And to me, he's already looking quite better. Okay. Yeah, it's looking pretty good. Okay. I'm going to put an almost minuscule amount of yellow in here. In fact, I'm going to use this laser yellow because it's really cool. It's actually one of my favorite. It's kind of it's a yellow, but it also leans heavily on the green side, and I dig that. So yeah, we're gonna mix that into our green, and same thing. We're just gonna start where we started, on the back of the calf here, and now we're going for like 75% coverage. Right? So not quite as much. But also very, very cool. Right? So with regard to the chesticles, right there, right, 75% of that area. And we just continue on. Right, this is just your highlighting 101. And as long as you keep it thin, you're going to be in great shape. Keep it thin and just remember, very simple, just reduce the amount of area you're painting each time you add a subsequent coat. Right? As you can see, really where this is starting to look quite cool on the Hulk. Okay. Okay. Now, where is our lovely yellow? Now we're going to do a much tighter highlight. We're going to do another drop of laser yellow. We're going to do another drop of universal thinner. This is such a classic painting. This is this is what this is really where I start to have fun. It's doing this kind of stuff, right? The building and the color blocking and priming and all that stuff, never really been that big into that. But this side of it, I really do like. Okay, so, and as long as they're thin enough, the effect that you get is gonna be really fun. This is the fun part, right? Applying these incremental little changes here that, in my opinion, really bring out a lot in these miniatures. Um, so especially bigger miniatures, you don't you do want to, right? You do want to show off the cool stuff in the in the sculpt itself, right? You do want, right? Like, this is really cool how it's the detail on the face starts to pop, right? Really cool. And you can even kind of striate this layer to make him even look a little more ripped than the sculpt is leading on, right? I may actually kind of striate this like that, right? And I know it looks really bright while it's wet on camera, but it's going to dry down. Again, we're going super, super thin. So it's going to dry down, and I think it's going to look nuts when it's done. And this acrylic thinner is really going to enhance the leveling properties of the paint and make it so that this stuff lies down, you know, after we've brushed it on. All right. So yeah, I'm a fan of this green now that we've got rocking on the Hulk here. It's starting to look very cool. Okay. All right. Now here's the other thing that I wanted to point out, right? This guy who wouldn't listen to a single thing I had to say, was complaining about, you know, he felt that Vallejo and AK, because they're not GW for one, that their color range was too pastel, but he wasn't. That's not what he meant. Um, he was actually, as we were talking, what he was actually referring to was the sheen of these paints. AK and Vallejo Vallejo model. I'm not Vallejo game color, Vallejo model color. Because game color actually does have a higher sheen to it, similar to how GW paints tend to run more of a satin type sheen. And I get that. Um, and so he was kind of citing that um, as a reason why he does not like, these non-GW heathen scum paints, right? These traitorous, heretical paints. And how dare they defy the emperor with their existence? Anyway, now I'm just laying it on thick because it's funny to me. Anyway, um, yeah, they are they are flatter. They are flatter paints. They dry super flat. It's one of the things that you like. If you like painting up your rim black, your base rim's black. For those of you that play the good games that have lipped bases, um, you can use the go-to paint is AK black because it's the one of the flattest blacks of the production water-based paints in the miniature painting world, right? It's great for that. But you'll see as this guy starts to dry, it is like he is noticeably flatter than he was when I just had speed paint on him. That's stupidly easy to fix. Even Iron Man is looking pretty flat right now. The metallic has some sheen to it, but the different cherry reds and stuff I was running are pretty flat, right? But you can easily fix that. And let me I'm just going to do a couple of last highlights here to draw attention to the face. So, I'll show you how to repair that or rectify that. Because I get it. It's great that you're able to get all of this great, all these really nice colors that work really well, and they work great for highlighting and blending and shading and all that stuff that you want to do, especially on Dr. Banner here. They look fantastic, but they dry very, very flat, and you may not want that for your final result. Should I highlight Hulk's little nipples? Yes. Yes, you should, sir. So we're gonna do that. I'm gonna little highlight here, and I'm gonna very lightly highlight those striations. I want those. I still want that. I want them to look a little more ripped. Right? Okay. And then the only real other place you might go with these is you could do the veins if you want, and the knuckles. Right, so if you want to do the odd vein here or there, or the knuckles, it's a great place to go. Looks like I missed a couple of highlights in between there. It's okay. You can always fix it. You can always fix it. So that's really it for Hulky here. You don't need. I can continue to push this up if I want, but I'm pretty happy with that. And yeah, even the extra little detail of the muscles there, I think is looking pretty good. All right, let's go ahead and I'm going to show you the fix, and then we're going to call this stream to a close because we've been painting about an hour or so. So that's not too bad. All right. Okay. And I'm actually going to apply this to a few different models here. But here we go. Here's what it is. Okay. Best way to fix that is to simply use a satin varnish. Okay. AK makes a satin varnish, which is okay. Maybe the one area where I'm going to choose Vallejo over them is this area here. Now, I want to point out that this and this are not quite the same thing. Okay? You can see the product number is different. 70.522, 26.519. I was using 70.522 for quite a while. It's a very good product and I do enjoy it. I still use it. But when I want a little more depth and I want a little more sheen, I move to this particular bottle of satin varnish. All right? And this stuff is fantastic. It does go on nice and even. I'm going to go ahead and start here by sealing Sabretooth. So you can see his coat looks pretty flat on camera. So I'm going to load some of this in. And we're just going to paint. Right, just going to seal that up, and he's going to have a nice, like a satin sheen to him, which is actually pretty nice. Okay, so some Sabretooth. Let's do his best friend here, Logan. Same thing, really nice to have satin sheen on this model. And I actually did previously seal these models, I think, with more of a matte type sealer. But I do like this satin sheen a little bit better, right? It's also sealed their motorcycle. I don't know, I'm calling it their motorcycle, but I don't know, maybe Logan shares it, who knows. Alright, and let's go ahead and seal up. So you can see there are parts on little Iron Man here that are looking a little flat, but when I seal with this, it's going to get some of that depth back. Okay. And then let's, I'm really going to kind of focus more towards the body of these minis. This is a nice way to restore the sheen to the model. And we'll spray Hulk here. All right, very good. Okay, well that's gonna pretty much do it for tonight. And with that, we can call these Marvel Crisis Protocol miniatures done. Up next for me is I'm going to be painting more big models. So I have a Star Wars Legion commission in. Uh, would love to have a Moonstone commission, but no. Anyway, uh, that's going to do it for this stream, my friends. Want to thank everyone for watching. Have a good night, guys. And yeah, we'll catch you on the next one. See ya.